So here we are with our prompts. And the second one is, what kind of momentary snapshot is the scene described as? So this is a really special art history idea. And we're dealing with the potential of movement and the feeling that an object is lifelike. For example, a face, is the mouth going to open if I look away? Action, camera, that kind of thing. So to help us with this concept, I'm going to bring up a Muybridge photo. And an Olmec work, also a classic jaguar motif sculpture from the Olmecs. So this Muybridge photo from 1878 is taken in Palo Alto, California, near here actually. And he set up tripwires and took these different quick photographs as the horse went by. And a lot of people didn't believe these were real. They thought they were invented. And there's a whole mythology around Muybridge, but he proved a theory of at what points in time a horse's feet touch the ground. So here we have art meeting a kind of technological device and discovery, and being used in that way to freeze time, to stop time in order to understand something. So we can talk about art within this scientific place, right? And calculus and Newton are involved with the same thing, which is to find the exact velocity of a falling object, to be able to zoom in and slow down and appreciate and position something as a way of understanding it and making sense of it. On the right, I have the jaguar motif from the Olmecs. And again, this is the story of metamorphosis, which dovetails with the idea of this object about to move. This is a very intelligent artwork here. The very subtle moments of weight shifting, and especially when you see it in the round, there's the feeling that this figure is anthropomorphized, becoming either man or jaguar, is about to take a step. So I just wanted to bring those two ideas together. Then we have something like this. This is a print, and we can take a moment here to describe this print. We have a gentleman here, seems to be behind in the background from these people, although as your eyes drift across here, he seems to come forward a little bit. But this floor positions him behind for sure. But he's got this kind of arrogant posture, and the joint of his elbow helps to bring him forward. And he's letting light expose this daguerreotype. The late, I think it's the 1870s, daguerreotypes became the first publicly available method of taking photographs. And you have this dog that is definitely in mid step, right? And there's a lot of things that are about to move. If you look at the feet of the photographer, or the book in the man's hand. But my point is, what's happening back here? You know, this guy's holding his head still, and he's attaching a metal armature. So the daguerreotype required time for the light to expose. And when there's portraits, there are often these armatures that were created in order to position the figure. So this is a kind of inherent part of the photography process at this juncture, and of art in general. I'm kind of laying this out as an idea, right? Like, what is this moment of stillness that we allow ourselves to be a part of, and how can we talk about that? with a sculpture, and especially with an ancient civilization where we're looking back in time and grabbing this thing and we're moving it around the world into different museums and spaces to look at. And what is that process of pinning a thing down uh, in order to make sense of it? This is what we think is the first photograph of Abraham Lincoln. And again, so here's a father type, mentor type figure and a leader in the New World, and he's being pinned by a metal armature in order for us to see him, or in art historical terms, to behold. And so this artifice of constructing something that will stay the same, that we can hang this photograph on the wall, leave and come back, and it will still be there, is a very prescient idea in art that's worth slowing down and considering. Now, on our right, we have a Olmec hollow baby figurine that is from the Tlatelolco region, probably made by Olmec trained artisans, though quite far north from the heartland. And so, what can we say about this scene? And is he about to get up? Is he in mid-speech? Is he about to open his eyes or close his eyes? Is he just in the process of bending his knee and placing his hand down on it? Is he digesting his food? What's going on here in terms of a moment, and what's after that moment? To bring the idea kind of full circle to a Western painting trajectory, we have a Balthus painting, a Swiss-French artist, and we have the classic curtain. We have the idea of the fourth wall, and the idea is, if there's a theater and there's three walls, this fourth transparent wall is implicit in a lot of the arguments and a lot of the ideas, and the idea of breaking the fourth wall. And so we have a figure here opening a curtain of light, and there's a kind of a drawing of the curtain, action, the theater of witnessing. What kind of participants do we want to be in looking at something that can or cannot look back? And this is just a simple description of this kind of way of thinking about illusionistic space and as a box, and how shallow of a box, how deep of an illusion do we want to deal with from an illustration standpoint. And then we come back to the Olmecs. And after I've said all these things, like, how long would it take this figure to move, or what kind of lifelikeliness are we talking about with respect to a uniqueness and an idealism? Because the archaeological record and anthropologists believe it's a fairly universal scholarship that these are portraits of very specific people. They're portraits of a specific person and a leader, and that's what they are. So we can appreciate that this very subtle rendering of the skin here, and the way that we imagine gravity pulling on skin. And of course, this is an incandescent light in a museum, and perhaps they were painted different colors. Perhaps there were stones inlaid in those eyes. There's a lot of conjecture going on here when we dig deep into the archaeological record from several thousand years ago. And that's what makes it a wonderful place to consider art history, because the conjecture is obvious from a limited set of materials. And that's in the forefront, and can allow us to be a little more prescriptive in our approach. Lastly, I throw in this Arnolfini wedding portrait by Van Eyck, because the perspective is so strong, and the subtle underpinning of this idea is the way that we are positioned by the construction of the representation. And so as much as the illusion as the space is made for us to witness, we are being positioned by the construction of these orthogonals and the space, and we are being led, right? Our hand is being held by all these artists and cultures. If we allow, or if we don't allow it, we're being coerced into some kind of engagement with these works of art.